Hi, I'm Sam Memmolo. Today we're going to do a complete start-to-finish installation of the B&W turnover ball hitch. This is the Gooseneck hitch, and we've got an '07 Chevrolet Silverado. It's a 2500 with the new frame and the new body style. Now the Chevrolet hitch comes with the green labels. You know, remember the hitch is in two boxes. Make sure both boxes have the same color label, then you'll be all set. And again, we're going to show you how to do everything, including taking out a heat shield, which is a pretty easy thing to do. Now, this hitch will fit '01 through '07, including the new chassis and the new body 2500 or 3/4 ton series. This hitch will also fit the '07 new body style and new chassis 3500 or 1 ton. If you need an earlier 1 ton, they got you covered with a hitch for that too. The instructions are very simple, but you want to start in the number 1, follow the instructions all the way through, and if you pay attention to these instructions, there's nothing to put in this hitch in. First thing it wants me to do is put the spare down, then I'll put the truck up in the air because we're going to move a exhaust pipe, and then we'll tackle that heat shield. Now, following the instructions, step 2 is take these little hangers, pop them off, and we're going to take a little block of wood, stick it between here, just to lower the exhaust down, give you some clearance for the center section. Here's a little tip. These tools work great. You can buy these off your wagon vendor. When he comes in, you can find them on the internet. You put this on here like so, just give it a squeeze, and it takes those right off, makes your life a lot easier, and you don't tear them up. I get this hanger off. I'm going to do the same with the front one, but all I need to do is get up here and cut my heat shield out. Now we're following the instructions. We're up here in the bed of the truck. We're going to cut that 4-inch hole. Now this is a really nice truck. We want to cut this thing in the exact place it needs to be. So we put the center section up, it'll be perfect. Read the instructions. Step 3, this is a short bed, 44¼ inches from the back edge of the bed. Okay, so when you measure this, by the way, if it's got a spray-in bed liner, figure out how thick that is. If it's a 1/4 inch thick or an 1/8 inch thick, allow for that bed liner. Okay, we'll go out here and we'll go 44¼ and take your time, and you know, what you want to do is measure it twice. And what we're doing is measuring between the wheel openings, and you know, these are curved, so it's a little tough, but it's about 50 inches on this particular truck. The 25 will put us right in the center. Let me see what we've got here. It actually measures 50½, so I want 25¼ puts us right in the middle of this one right here. It doesn't hurt to double check all these measurements. Now what I like to do to make sure I'm right in the center is count the ribs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I know I've got the center one. Now, I've got this marked right here. Next thing I'm going to do, pull the string one more time, then I'm going to center punch. Now, center punch normally keeps the drill from walking, but since you're going to have such a big hole in a big hole saw, what I like to do is take and drill a small hole through that. That'll keep my hole saw pilot drill a great place to go, keep it from walking. All right, now, I've drilled the pilot hole. I like to do that because you're going to work with a pretty big hole saw here. And the good thing is, sharp hole saw. If your hole saw has got half the teeth off it, or it's all bent, it's going to work you to death and you can really make a mistake. Get a nice sharp one. This is a 4-inch one. Starrett seems to work real good. This is a high quality. Get a bimetal blade. Works good in all these steels. Here's a little tip. Take a piece of regular household sponge, cut it to fit inside. And of course, what I did was I saturated this with lubricating oil. Makes the cut go better and saves your saw. Now, if you put this down there, you know, you're on an uneven surface. It's possible for it to walk around. Here's a little tip. Piece of 3/4 inch plywood. Makes a nice kneeling pad. Cut the hole a little bigger than the hole saw. You lay this over here. By the way, I'm using a pretty good sized drill. That little battery powered drill isn't going to get it. I get my drill bit positioned on that pilot hole, which is much easier to do than just a center punch mark. Make sure I've got clearance here. Okay. Then what I'll do is I'll kneel on this. That takes my 200 pounds holding this thing down, probably not going to walk, and I'll drill the hole. And that makes a nice clean hole, a nice clean cut. You do enough of these, and you need to. You have a whole collection of those 4-inch pieces of steel. You can make clocks out of them. Now, look at how nice that hole is. And what you want to do is now's the time to take a file, deburr the edges, and then you maybe take a little silicone, a little paint, cover up those edges so they don't rust. And before you start doing all that, get a shop vac, pull all of these filings up. They're going to get in your boots. You can track them in the new truck. You're going to scratch the bed. Now's the time for the shop vac. I'm reading the instructions again. Step 4. We're getting ready to put our cross members in here. We need to make a little modification to make it easy. And I know it's tough to sit there with instructions. You need to follow these step by step. After you've done 1 or 2 of these, there's nothing to it. What the deal is, they want us to measure 2.5 inches from the front of this cross member, make a mark, and we're going to make a little 1/2 inch wide notch, or 1 inch wide notch. So here we go. Measure over here, and I'll just mark my 2.5. Again, that's from the leading edge of this little support right here, and then we'll go 1/2 inch on each side. That way we'll have our 1 inch notch. Make a couple marks, and again, just enough to relieve it so we can get our angle iron in here, our cross member, and then we'll just cut this. Okay, got our notch cut out. Now I'll start with our cross member. I'm going to slide this in here like so. That little notch makes it real easy. Slide this all the way across to the other side. All right, now we've got the big crossbar that goes in the back. And you can see these holes, they're offset to one end. When this is in the truck and it's stood up, we want these oriented to the bottom of the bar, the threaded holes to the bottom. And again, we slide it right in here and then we'll just twist it up. Okay, now underneath the truck, we've got our cross members here. You can take a crescent wrench, put it on here, and you can use that to stand it right up in place, like that. And again, we want these holes like this and the flange like that. All right, remember we're working on a 07 2500 series. This is a diesel pickup truck. Now, if you get a 2500 with a guy buys a gas job, you got to look at the instructions. It tells you right here, up here on the gas tank, on the rear top corner of the gas tank, there's going to be a fuel valve. Now, that valve needs to stay there, but you got to get it out of your way to put the center section in. The instructions are right here. It's pretty simple. There's a locking pin. You disengage. You slide it out of the way. You put the B&W center section in there. Then you put the valve back on. There's nothing to it, but you want to make sure. If you follow the instructions, you won't go wrong. Now I'm ready to put our center section up, put some bolts in it. Don't forget, the pin's going to be on that releases it is going to be on the driver's side of the truck. It's probably easiest if you just lay it up over the exhaust, thread it up over the top of the tank, and make sure you're in the hole, in the bed. Perfect, look at that. Okay, when you put the bolts up, slide them through, follow the instructions. On these, you put the flat washer, the lock washer, then the hex nut. Run them all up finger tight. Don't tighten anything up till we put the side plates on. Now we're getting ready to put the side plates on. We've got our cross members in, our center section. Now, the interesting thing, on some of these trucks, there's a little sensor. This is not it, but it looks like it. If the truck has the integrated brake controller option, it's mounted right there on the chassis. It blocks this hole that we need to use. So you're going to pull it off. In the kit from B&W, you get a nice bracket like this. It's going to bolt right there using the same bolts. You took it off, and this bracket repositions it on the back side of the frame, far enough away from the frame so you have access. Works really nice. If you don't use the bracket, save it. You may need it sometime. Now we're ready for the side plates. They're in 2 pieces. We're going to pre-assemble this one before we put it in. 3 carriage bolts come in the kit from the back side. They go in the square holes. Set this on here, and of course we're going to use 3 flat washers, 3 lock washers, and 3 nuts. Got to just hand tighten them. We're not going to tighten it up at this point. That gives you plenty of room to move things around, do it the way you want. Once this is together, it's going to fit right up in here, just like that. Now, we've got a bolt that goes through here, big heavy bolt. This could be a problem because you've got a slotted hole. If you don't want the bolt going back and forth, got you covered. B&W supplies this piece, which pops right in here, makes that oval hole a round hole. And when your bolt comes through, you bolt your side plate up, there's no way it's going to move. Put all your bolts in according to the instructions. Again, hand tighten, do the other side. All right, got the side plate on. Got all the bolts in. You're going to get a set of U-bolts with this. I already put the one on this side. It goes in from around the back of the frame, comes through the side plate, and you put your flat washer, your lock washer, and your nut on it. Now the next step is tightening up and torquing properly all the bolts. You start on the center section, and then you do the side plates. Remember, all of the bolts that are 1/2-inch bolts and take a 3/4 nut, those are going to be 80 foot-pounds. This 3/4 bolt, that's going to be 120 foot-pounds. When you tighten up your C-bolt or U-bolt that comes through here, tighten a little at the top, a little at the bottom, drawing up nice and evenly. And it goes, it's a sequence, and you start by torquing the bolts on the center section first. So I'll put it up in the air, torque those bolts. All right, now we're ready for our handle. Handle's going to tuck through. There's a little groove up here, a slot in the center section. It comes back here. Now there's a tab on this deal that locks and unlocks the pin. With the tab to the top, we're going to put the supply bolt, it's a 5/16 bolt, through the loop, then through the tab. I'm going to push this over. Now there's the lock nut. It's supplied with the kit. Make sure you use the lock nut. And when that's at the top, that'll operate properly. So when they pull the handle out and forward, it'll lock the pin out. Make sure you follow the instructions and do it that way. Now that everything's torqued, we're on the home stretch. You know, we got our latch pin installed, all the side plates, everything's done. Now we've got a couple of holes here that we need to drill out from the bottom, and that's for these neat safety chain hooks. They're spring loaded. Once the holes are drilled, we'll drop these down through the bed. The springs go up and then the lock nuts on them. So when they sit in the bed, they're like this. They're out of sight. The bed's nice and smooth. When you lift them up, you hook your safety chain on them, and the springs will make them come back down. Also won't rattle. And if you look at the finish of this piece, this is such high quality. It's a great unit. Looks great in this truck. It's going to work good. We're real proud to install these because this is one of the best hitches there is, no doubt. Now all I need to do is drill the holes. I'm going to use these as a guide, so you drill these from underneath and go through. Remember now, I'm going to drill the 4 holes closest to the post here in the center. And all I have to do is, don't forget, put your exhaust system back up. When I set the truck down, I'll put the spare on. Don't forget the spare. That'll make a customer angry if they drive off without their spare. So once the exhaust is up, the spare's up, we're in the bed. What a great, easy, simple installation for a great product. Now, when you saw me operate the latch, you pull it out and roll it forward, the pin stays out. So it's a one-person latch and unlatch. You don't need 2 people. When you put your ball in, and you set it down like that, and you operate it, make sure that it engages. You're not going to have any problem. When you're not using the truck to tow, you can set this right over like that. Set it down. Your floor is nice and flat. Little tip, before you turn the customer loose, put a little grease on this. Of course, nice waterproof grease. That'll keep it operating smoothly. You can see right here, safety chains go right there. Back down. When the ball is down inside the center section, it's latched in. You can still put your 4x8 sheets of plywood. Now, go over the instructions when you deliver the truck. You won't have any comebacks, and you'll be working on your next truck. You know, when you get this down pat, you do a few of these, less than an hour, you'll have this thing done, and know that you put a quality product in.